Hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 241. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. When I say life skills, what do you think of? Maybe you think of cooking, cleaning, kind of more of those chores types of activities. Well, it turns out life skills is a very comprehensive, very holistic concept. And my guest today is an expert in them, as well as the one that has created the Life Skills Now camp, which has over 450 life skills. Now, there's a ton of them, but it does include cooking, also budgeting and finances, things like car maintenance, but also leadership and entrepreneurship and emotional intelligence. So I am speaking today with Katie Kimball. She's from Raising Healthy Families, and she really helps change kids' relationship to food through work in the kitchen and helping parents with picky eaters. But she's also very passionate about life skills, and she's a mom of 4 as well. So we're talking about all things life skills, and also I get, a free therapy session for my own kids. Some of the things we talk about, like what's the difference between life skills and chores? How do we make sure that kids stay motivated to learn and implement these life skills? How do they build self-confidence and resilience? How do we deal with kiddos that might be perfectionistic and have trouble when they make mistakes? And also a question I threw in there because my oldest is left-handed and I am terrified for him to have a knife. So we talk a little bit about that as well, especially when it comes to the kitchen. So make sure that you check out the show notes because we have the special link for you to be able to enroll your kids in the camp, which is a virtual camp that starts June 8th. All the information is in the show notes. And without further ado, grab that notebook and pen and let's dive into today's conversation with Katie Kimball. Hey Mama, are you tired of your cluttered home and mile-long to-do lists but are too overwhelmed to know where to start? Do you lack the time and motivation and don't think you'll ever conquer the clutter? You're in the right place. I'm Emily, wife, boy mom, and declutter coach who has overcome the overwhelm in my own life through decluttering and simplifying. I believe every mom deserves the peace that comes from a clutter-free home. Ready to get your life back? Let's declutter your home, head, and heart together. Hey, Katie, thanks so much for coming on the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast. I am very excited to chat with you today.
Well, what a treat, Emily. I love that you've kind of watched me from afar for a while and what mom isn't overwhelmed. So let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we are talking about all things life skills. And honestly, this is an area where, on my best days, I'm like, yes, I am helping these children. They're going to launch, they're going to be productive members of society. And then on my worst days, I'm kind of like, I'm just going to put the butter on your toast. I can't,
I
I
love that
can't
example.
deal with life right now. I'm just going to do it because you're going to complain that you can't get butter in the right place. So I'm
Yeah,
just gonna do
just
it.
give me the toast. Just give me
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you're gonna help me out, just so everyone knows. This is gonna be my personal therapy session that you get to listen to. So congratulations. Um, but as we jump in, it would be great if you could tell us about you and your family, kind of how you serve families, and maybe one thing you like to do for fun.
Yeah, remind me about that last one when I forget
I will.
about fun, says every mom ever,
Yeah.
right? Fun. Um, so I have 4 kids. They are 21, 17, 14, and 11. And I'm about to move into whatever phase of parenting is being an in-law because my 21-year-old's engaged. It's so crazy. So I really am launching a real adult. He's doing boring things like having a meeting at the credit union to see how he gets pre-approved for a mortgage. Like, talk about adulting level 7. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's for him or for me, but parenting level 7 for me. So I've been parenting for a while, and I definitely started out as that mom because my degree is in education. And so, I'm teacher mom. And so I was telling, all the other moms of the 2-year-olds, send your kids over, we'll do Montessori activities together. And I had all this energy and it was lovely. when I had baby one. And then when I had baby two, she started eating the Montessori activities because they're like, they're all choking hazards, they're tiny. And the whole thing with Montessori is that they're down low so that your child can reach them. And I was like, I did not learn this in college. I learned how to be in a classroom where all the children are the same age. And I just felt so ill-equipped. And a lot of my good intentions went the way of the buttered toast. Like with you, I was like, okay, Montessori activities are going up. I needed to figure this out. And I just felt like I was dipping in and out of life skills. So I think it was when my oldest was 10 and he had to do a how-to speech in fourth grade. He had to show how to do literally anything. It could be swing a baseball bat, make a chocolate chip cookie. So he did food, which was cool because at that time I was already online teaching families how to stay healthy without going crazy. I was blogging about food and research behind what's healthy and how to save money and all these things. And I realized that the recipe he chose, which was homemade guacamole, was like the only recipe he could make at age 10, even though it was also the first recipe I taught him at age 5. And I was like, oh, that was a long pause button, you know? And it just sort of hit me watching him like with this chef's knife in his fourth grade classroom. I'm like, how cool is this? Like, I love raising the bar with my kids that he knows how to use a chef's knife safely at age 10, barely for that one recipe, right? But I'm like, man, I'm halfway through parenting. Like if I want him to launch well, I have got to buckle down and figure this out. And so that was really when personally I shifted into how do I teach my kids to cook really intentionally and spent that whole summer doing that. And then professionally also had that shift because I thought other parents need this too, and they don't have degrees in education, and they don't have this sort of background in talking about food and being immersed in food. And I'm like, maybe I can step in and help other moms who also would love their kids to know more than one recipe, but they're drowning and they're spending, all of their time in the kitchen feeding these children. And I was used to say I was spending so much time feeding them, I forgot what they looked like because I wasn't spending time with them. And so that was a big hinge in parenting for me, from having the ideals to implementing the ideals and making sure that not only cooking, especially cooking, but other life skills too, were really woven into the fabric of our family culture. And it's been a joy to share that with others. Like I'm the one who will say, like, don't butter the toast, Emily. Like, don't, it's not worth it because it's just a short-term win, but it's a long-term loss. And we all butter our kids' toast sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like we all do things for them that they could do themselves. But as long as we can keep that long-term mindset of like, I need to think about that 18-year-old or that 20-year-old or whenever they leave our home so that they're not the 30-year-old finally leaving our home, right? And really day to day do as much as we can without completely drowning ourselves to pass on those life skills to them. So that's how I help other moms, and we do that through like online classes. We'll talk about all that nitty gritty, but it's that heart that has to come first,
Yeah.
and that motivation. Like I actually want this for my kids, so we got to start there. What do I do for fun? Um, well, I mean, I'm a people person, so honestly, I love scheduling a walk with a friend, and that's very adulthood fun, right? That I want to get my body moving, I want to be outside, and I just want to be with people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's funny. I was with some moms. We just went out to dinner and it was like 9 p.m. and some of them wanted to go out and I'm like, no, I'm good. And I like drive a minivan home and I get into bed with oh my gosh. It's just one of those things I'm like, my definition of fun has definitely changed the older that I get,
Right.
but that's okay. That's okay. This is my version of adult fun at my age. And then
Yeah.
I wake up looking, well, maybe somewhat refreshed.
It's feeling refreshed at
Feeling
least. Yes.
refreshed. Exactly. Okay, so we're talking about life skills, and one of the things I would love to kind of clear up first is sort of like intuitively, we're like, okay, yeah, I kind of understand what life skills are. But we also talk a lot in our families about chores. And there's sort
Hmm.
of like a mentality, I feel, that's like tied to chores, which is like, ugh, chores. Like, oh, I got to do them. They're so boring and I hate them. And I know.
Right.
But then we have like life skills, which is kind of a more of a like a positive term. But I'm curious if you can sort of define life skills and how it differs both in what you're actually doing and then also kind of the mindset behind it compared to chores.
Yeah, I mean, chores are like, it's like one little piece in the huge wheel that is life skills. So I look at life skills as threefold, and that's hands-on, minds-on, and hearts-on. And so hands-on would certainly include household chores, but also things like car maintenance and woodworking and electrical work, like stuff that's really not just a daily household task. And then the minds-on would be bigger things like finances, entrepreneurial thinking, um, even how to organize our time, how to organize our spaces, all of that kind of stuff, really that executive functioning thinking. And hearts on would be any way that we're communicating or interacting with other people, giving generously, leadership. We have in this year's life skills now, we have a whole leadership track and like servant leadership and how leaders need to serve. It's really beautiful. But also our own emotional regulation. Right. So that's a huge life skill, and it's not something that's easy to see or even easy to write down, but the tools that we use interiorly to calm our anxiety, or to understand our emotions or see the emotions in other people and adapt to those. And so when you start looking at it that way, I mean, this is our 5th year of Life Skills Now summer camp, which is the way that we kind of serve families through videos. We're at over 450 skills. And yeah, there's probably 20 or 30 chores, but that's a drop in the bucket. And then the other way that we want to look at life skills too is how do we implement them? And so we need to learn the skill for sure. And that's where chores feel really boring and really negative because it's like a thing you have to do. But we also have to have a system to make sure that it's easy to remember to do them and that there is an expectation. And that's where we can start to build the more positive feelings and more positive words. Like you're a member of this family team and we all take responsibility for our spaces. Right now, some kids see through that and they're like, yeah, you're still asking me to do chores. Like, I'm on top of this, mom. I get it. But then the third leg of the stool when we implement life skills in our home is the motivation. And motivation is where we can really try to figure out how our kids can positively be motivated, whether that's internally, because, like, for little tiny kids, chores are still fun. And that's when we want to capture that internal motivation. Our medium-sized kids, we might figure out what do they want. And so when it comes to cooking, especially, we say, oh, like I'm hearing you complain about the meal I just made. And I would love to give you an opportunity to choose your own meal. And as soon as you are able to feed the family, you get to choose the meal, you know? And so that's a little bit of internal motivation. And then there's nothing wrong with external motivation, like rewards and paying kids to do things. And just seeing, well, this goes back to internal. I forgot internal. Once the kids get old enough, ideally their internal motivation is, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to do this for myself someday. And it's going to feel really terrible if I don't have any skills. So now I need to critically think about my own launch. And there's some conversations that parents can facilitate with teens to build that intrinsic teenage motivation, which can it's like buried a little deeper. Like you gotta tease it out, but it's there. So the best way to think about life skills is all three: hands on, minds on, and hearts on, but then also the three legs of the implementation stool, which is, you have to actually teach the kids the skills, which is important. They want to feel competent. You can't just say, like, from now on, you're making a meal a week, guys. And they're like, ah, I don't even know how to cut a cucumber. And then you gotta have a system that has that expectation built in so that it's not this big surprise. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, because I remember my childhood, like when I had to clean a bathroom, it was always out of the blue. And maybe it was on the same day of the week, but I wasn't watching the calendar when I was 8. You know what I mean? So I was always like, oh, this is horrible. And it's a little better when it's systematized because at least it's expected. There will still be complaining. Like this, there's no magic pixie dust when it comes to raising children. But then that motivation, that's where you can really kind of spice up the recipe and try to figure out what each one of your kids with their individual, very unique personalities, what it's going to take to internally and externally motivate them, because that's where it
Yeah.
ceases to feel like a chore in the negative sense and starts to feel like building their future.
Yeah, I like how it is a very holistic approach. And then also, it kind of, like you said, with the motivation, which I might kind of move to that because I have
Mm.
a kiddo with motivation challenges, we shall say,
Uh-huh.
but that it can kind of change depending on age and kind of where they're sort of getting that motivation.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to give an example of Sean, my
Hmm.
youngest. He at one point was very interested and motivated to help me cook, and I was thrilled. And I was like, "Yes, you can help me with the ground beef. Yes, you can help me with this." And he's pretty tall for his age. He doesn't need the step stool
Hmm.
anymore at the stove. Like, so I went on Amazon and I bought these like kid-size pot holders, and I was like, "Yeah, so now you can help." Like the day after the pot holders arrived, I say, "Hey, buddy, do you want to come and help mommy make taco meat?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm good." So of course it's right after, and me being a minimalist, I don't like try to buy things I'm not going to
Right.
use. And I'm like, okay, so it's like he's the type of kid that if he feels like it's my idea and not his idea, then he's not going to want to do it. And so I have struggled with
Hmm.
chores, yes, but then also some of these more life skill things I want them to have, both boys, like cooking or helping with some of these things, because it's like not a requirement necessarily in our house, but they have the opportunity to earn points that can be,
Hmm.
put towards screen time or that kind of thing. And so I've struggled with like, okay, do I just say like these things have to happen? Absolutely. And then we get the pushback, or do I give them the option? And if they say no, then I'm still doing it. Like I've really kind of struggled with the best approach. And I would be curious to know how you would approach that situation with my variably motivated child, and then also the requirement versus this is optional concept.
Yeah. Oh, those are really, really great entry points. So first I want to address the motivation to try to figure out, because again, like the more coins of motivation you have to put in the little slot machine of Sean, the better chance you have of like hitting the jackpot, right? And so if you only have like, I'm gonna buy him something cool and it'll feel fun, or I'm gonna require it, you're like, oh, you run out very quickly. So here are some other points of motivation you can use. One is positive peer pressure, and that just means like seeing other kids doing it. And so that's why it's really important to me that we always have, not always, almost always have kids in our videos. We always have them in our cooking videos. We have them often in our life skills videos. And so the kids are seeing other kids doing it and they just get this like swell of feeling like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And, this cool teenager is teaching me cooking. And so that can help positive peer pressure, whether that's my videos or whether you can find a YouTube video of someone. And again, unfortunately, kids in YouTube videos tend to do really flashy things. And you're like, I can't replicate that at home. So if you can find a kid doing like a normal everyday skill, that's really cool. But that's definitely what we try to provide for parents. It's like we're not YouTube flashy, we're not sprinkles and cupcakes and stuff. It's just food. But it's cool because other kids are doing it. So that's really good. Um, Positive affirmation coming from a non-parent
Mm.
is really cool. And so if you can get Sean to make something when you are going to a party or a potluck or the grandparents are coming over, or you're hosting, and then like naturally, all you have to do is say like, "Oh, guess who made the deviled eggs or the guacamole?" It was Sean. The adults, they just naturally heap praise on him, and it means 10x more than if you're like, "Oh, that was so cool, you did a good job." Like parent words, they fall upon deaf ears. So I think that can be a nice snowball of motivation where they feel like, wow, like I did something real. We want to make sure we're always thanking our kids anytime they help. That should be woven into the culture of the family. I can see you're shaking your head. You're like, duh, of course. For some families, that doesn't go without saying, though. So it's a good reminder to be like, oh my gosh, thank you to whoever makes dinner. If you are making dinner, even if that's 7 days a week, you know, maybe you coach your husband to really demonstrate that gratitude for the kids so that it becomes really natural. And so that then when the child cooks and they receive the praise, it doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel like you're just praising them because you want them to come back. Like I think Sean's probably pretty savvy, isn't he? He's seeing through like strategies and tactics. And so we have to get beyond or deeper than strategies and tactics and get to like family culture, and real things that would happen in the real world. So those are and inviting friends over. This is not one for every family. Some moms are like, "Are you kidding me, Katie? Put another child in my kitchen?" I don't think so. But for the right kid who's maybe extroverted and really social and socially motivated, saying like, "Hey, if you would like to make dinner or you want to make a snack, homemade granola bars or something, would you like to invite a neighbor over or a friend?" So like I have two kids who just love being with people. And if they're doing something with a person, complaint rate zero. Doesn't matter if they are like, scooping sludge out of like a hole in the garage. It does not matter. Complaint rate zero if it's with a buddy. So it's worth considering that one at least. And then you kind of had a second question. I got to think what it
The
was.
requirement versus like optional or them
Hmm.
being motivated because they're like, oh, I would like, an extra 15 minutes on my tablet. Hey, mom, what chores do you have? Versus I
Right.
say on Saturday, you guys are going to clean the bathrooms. So don't make any plans with your friends because you're going to be cleaning bathrooms for,
Hmm.
an hour or whatever.
Yes. And this is where, remember the three-legged stool, they have to know how to do the skill. They have to have a system and an expectation that's regular and consistent. And they need the motivation. And so that second leg of the stool of the system is what you need. And yes, I think all kids should be required to do something. You said 8 and 10, right?
Hmm.
Should they be required to make a full meal on their own? Maybe not. My kids started that. They were 9 and 12 and they got to do it together. Motivation. And they already had been like taught all the skills for 2 years. 8 and 10's a little young. Could they, however, be in charge of one piece of every Monday dinner, right? Or every Saturday breakfast, or something that has some consistency and gives them some ownership so that you can do the thing rather than like, can you help me with tacos? Hey, and like, I'm going to put you in charge of Saturday breakfast. Let's make some plans. Let's get out some scrap paper and scribble all the things you love to eat for breakfast and figure out what skills you need, to make that happen. And it might not be this Saturday, it might be a long-term plan because you got to get the skills in place first. But does that make sense? Like I'm seeing you smile, like, okay, okay, this feels like maybe doable. And the good thing if it's consistent and it's required as part of the family, and it doesn't mean that they can't do additional chores for bonus screen time, right? That's what we do in our family. It's a both and. You're required to do a certain amount as a member of the household who, gets a roof over their head and clothes on their backs. And then if you do extra, you get paid for that, which is
Yeah.
kind of, it's a little bit realistic to the real world. You got to just sort of put the time in sometimes. One element that I include in my system is an element of choice. And so for my kids, they have to complete their chores by noon on Sunday, but they can do them anytime throughout the week they want. So I would never have to say, oh, like don't set any playtime on Saturday. It's if you've got something you want to do on Saturday, then you should plan to knock out your chores, one every day after school or on Saturday evening or Sunday morning, get up early and don't pick up your book or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's interesting as you're saying this. I do this with them in other areas. My oldest plays viola and he is on this 180-day streak. So, like, he has to do it every day. And so we give him the choice. Okay, well, if you're going to go out with your friends, you have to be back by this time so that you can do
Mm-hmm.
viola before dinner. Or he gets a homework packet that's due by Friday
Oh,
and we can do 1 or 2 pages a day. He gets to kind of have the choice as to how many pages he does, but it
right.
needs to be done to turn in on Friday. So I guess we're already doing that with other aspects of
Hmm.
things that are required. And that is really helpful with that because, yeah, I mean, it's funny because sometimes when they're motivated, they're like really motivated. They're like,
Hmm.
can you give me 10 chores to do in the next hour? And I'm like, what? And then other times I'm like, hey guys, I'm cleaning the whole house. Who wants to help me? And they're like, no, I'll just sit here and read a book on the couch. So
Right.
we definitely need a little bit more of that systemizing and the structure involved. And my husband is definitely totally like on board, especially with an upcoming move that we have.
Yeah.
We're going to be in a new home after we stay with my parents. So it's going to be like kind of a disruption in all of it. And then when we kind of have this new home, it's kind of like, okay, we can establish some of these things, I think. And it'll be a good opportunity to kind of, I guess, start fresh with some of
Nice.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally recommend in your new house to just like brain dump everything that you realize should be done weekly,
Yeah.
bathrooms, whatever, and then monthly, and just have that in a place where if they say I want 10 chores, you're like, oh yes, here is my list. So it's not, I mean, I'm using the word system, even though I really am allergic to systems. I'm not an organized person, but the system is so simple. It's
Yeah.
just write down everything that has to be done weekly, and everyone's got to do six or whatever, whatever the number is. So it's very fluid and very flexible, but it also serves me and my forgetful brain in a situation like you were just talking about. And it serves them because it's really teaching them time management.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing now we have to do therapy for my other child. So everyone, um, he's 10. He is number one, a perfectionist. Okay.
Hmm.
So when he is learning a new skill, if it does not come immediately to him, he gets very frustrated and he doesn't want to continue. And he's left handed. And the reason I
Hmm.
say that, he's great at vacuuming, he can clean the bathrooms, he's great. I have been terrified with the knife skills because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's left handed. I don't know how to teach you how to like do anything, And I know I could probably YouTube this and I could figure this out. But in the moment, I'm like, I'm
Right.
trying to get dinner on the table.
Yeah.
I'm seeing if you want to help cut the carrots, and I'm terrified you're going to cut your finger off, and we're going to go to the ER instead. And then if
Right.
I kind of have that energy with his perfectionism, it's a recipe for disaster because he can feel me being
Mm,
tense, and then he doesn't want to mess up, and it's just kind of a problem. So that is the
yes.
thing. Other-handedness when we're teaching
Right.
skills, especially in the kitchen, and then also perfectionism or when there's some challenges with the child being able to pick up that new skill. Go.
Hmm. So good. Well, you've self-diagnosed one of the answers because you said, when I'm trying to get dinner on the table, and right? We speak that phrase very quickly because that means we are moving quickly in that moment. It's a terrible time to teach a kid a new skill, particularly with danger involved, right? And so, unfortunately, and this is the hardest part, is that when you need them or when they're asking, right? They see you using the knife. Oh, hey, were you going to teach me to use the knife? That'd be cool. It's actually like the worst time for the teaching. It's the best time for the rehearsal though, so don't worry. Like we get helpers. We just need to take at least one 5 to 10 minute moment where we're not pushing for time to do the initial teaching. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
that's with if you're teaching a 2-year old to measure a teaspoon of salt or a 10-year old to use a chef's knife, it doesn't matter. It really all should be done when you're not under pressure because of that, exactly what you described. He feels your stress. And now he's like, oh, the kitchen is kind of, it's a stressful place to be. And who wants to come back
Yeah.
to that? So that's really important. Teach a brand new skill as much as possible away from dinner hour, whatever that is. And you might have to schedule that. They might ask, can I learn to use the knife? And be like, oh, yes, tomorrow after school. I'm going to scribble it in my calendar right now and it will take 10 minutes. So that's huge. I think perfectionism is something that a lot of kids struggle with or struggling with to learn something new. We don't like things that are hard. I'm 43, 5. How old am I? I'm 45. I don't like things that are hard. A 10-year-old really doesn't like things that are hard. And so it's really important to use the language of imperfection. And the kitchen's the perfect place to do it because first of all, you're going to fail at some stuff. And it's really low stakes as long as we make it low stakes as the parent. And there are lots of right ways to do something. So we just filmed this whole teen cooking class, and the number of times I said, "You do you." There are many right ways to cut an apple. I'm going to show you three possibilities, and then you figure it out. You know, here's how the chef taught us how to cut an onion. Well, here's how a home cook might cut an onion. As long as your fingers are out of the way and you're cutting the onion and not yourself, it's all okay, right? And that's what I love about cooking is you can like completely butcher the job of cutting an onion, but your dish will still turn out. And so we want our kids to have practice in that things don't have to be perfect. So the kitchen's a great place for that, and how often you can say, well, when I make a recipe and it says to brown my roast before I put it in my slow cooker, I started cheating. I didn't brown the roast. And it's still good and nobody cares. I love showing kids how you can like skip steps or add your own step or switch it up, because it trains that muscle of imperfectionism. So, so good. So if you're teaching cutting, an apple, be like, you know what? There's a bunch of different shapes of apple slices on my cutting board, and there's a bunch of different ones on your cutting board. But when I eat it, it all tastes like apple. So because you know that that's one of your son's Achilles heels, you're going to want to like really plan ahead and plan some language and think hard about that, because I think if we get this right, it's really going to help them in lots of areas of life to
Yeah.
learn imperfectionism. So that's super cool. Lefties are easier to teach knife skills in some ways than righties. And I know, and you're looking at me like, nope, Katie's crazy. She's gone off the deep end. Because human bodies are symmetrical and the knife is symmetrical. So every single thing you do with your right hand is exactly the same for a lefty. So if you have a good cooking video, like the ones we make, the lefty is actually seeing a mirror image of himself when the expert is doing it on the screen. So it's actually easier for a lefty to follow a righty on the
Oh.
screen. Yeah, surprise. And you can do the same thing. All you need to do is go to your kitchen table, or if you have a peninsula or island, face him
Hmm.
instead of being next to him. And so then you're exactly matching what he does, that there's no difference. There's no right or left on a knife. So
Yeah.
it's great. And so you just have to change your language to say, like, I'm going to, move my knife further away from my body or toward my belly button instead of left and right. And you're all set. Now you can teach him every single skill, just face across the counter.
Incredibly helpful. I don't know. I never thought of that. But also, he just seems kind of knife happy. And I'm like, no,
Oh,
can we, like, let's just be able to do this again, like you said, when it's not a rush, when
yeah.
we're calm, like being able to know, okay, I'm facing you. Like, this is, it's just sometimes he just wants to kind of swing the thing around. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But the other thing that you mentioned, as far as like things can be done multiple different ways, I love that because I know that these life skills are teaching our kids a bunch of stuff, self-confidence, but also that resilience that, like, okay, this didn't go exactly how I thought it would, but look, I was able to still make a
Mhm.
dish that tastes delicious, even though I didn't cut the apple exactly the same way that my mom did. And I think that that's also so important that kids recognize, like, hey, yeah, you did this slightly differently, and that's okay, rather than that judgment and that perfectionism coming through that
Mhm.
it has to be done this one only way, or else I'm doing it wrong. And I guess, your kids have been sort of at this for a while, like
Yeah.
the resilience, the self-confidence, the agency, the ownership. Like, if you were to say kind of like one of these things coming through that has really shaped maybe your
Mhm.
oldest, for example, who's, about to get a home and all these other things,
Mhm.
like what has really come shown through by teaching these life skills the most, if you were to pinpoint maybe one or two?
Oh man. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. So for sure, resilience. Yes, confidence. Absolutely. Um, I mean, a couple quotes from my kids. I love when my number three said, I don't think a lot of kids my age know how to do this. Right? Like, what a cool thing to say. And you can like hear he's dripping with confidence there because he's like, yeah, I'm better than the rest of my class. Not that we don't want to we don't want to promote like excess pride, but what a great thing to be able to say that I can do something that many kids my age can't do. And I do remember my oldest, he was probably 15 or so, so early high school. And he used to say, yeah, I like have daydreams sometimes about being in an apartment and living with roommates and cooking a meal for like all these dudes, and just having them really enjoy it. And we come together and then we talk around the table. And honestly, what's funny is that he will never live with a bunch of dudes because he's going to get married right away. But he just celebrated his 21st birthday and he had about 8 friends over. He made a huge meal for them. And when I walked in, because unfortunately my other kid had a choir concert, I walk in and the house is dark except for candles on the table. And these young adults are all just like talking and laughing and eating the cake that his sister had made for him. and they'd had this incredible dinner with like tons of leftovers too. We're going to eat it for 3 days. But the fact that he wanted to cook for his friends, like he didn't want to, Mom, can you, buy takeout for us or pizzas? You know what I'm saying? He
Hmm.
didn't want to go out. He wanted to have them over. And I think that shows a real grounding that happens. There's a very much a sense of family culture in our house because food is that, they say the kitchen's the heart of the home. And so because everyone is competent in food and we often gather around food, it makes them want to be here and to pull others in. At least the boys, the girl not so much, but everyone's different. She grew in confidence though, I would
Yeah.
say. So whereas my oldest definitely had that like grounding and ownership and his sense of self, her confidence was hugely built by the fact that she could do authentic skills as, a fifth grader, a sixth grader, and she could cook full meals for the family. And that showed up in her writing. Sometimes she would write about it at school, and you'd go, oh, like she notices that. And it was, I always thought that the confidence we built in the kitchen would spill over into other areas of life. I mean, I said it for years. And then I interviewed a sociologist who said, oh, yeah, it's true. Like we only have one bucket of confidence. So if we fill our kids' confidence bucket, it applies to athletics, academics, social situations and everything. So if we can get them confident in the kitchen with sharp knives, with fire, with, nourishing other human beings, which are really authentic skills, it actually applies to everything.
Oh, that just gives me hope for my future as a boy mom. And also, I
Yay!
feel like it makes them an attractive partner, like when they like know how to do this stuff. I mean, I remember when first dating my husband, and yeah, he like knew how to cook when we got married. He did the entire registry with like all the cookware and stuff. And I was like, okay, like this is
Yeah.
great. So that is something I definitely keep in mind. And as we wrap
Mhm.
up, I want to know all the things about the Life Skills Now, the camp. I mean, 450 some skills. It's like insane. Tell us all about it.
It's crazy. It's so much fun. I mean, I had this idea because I love networking. I love people. And so I network a lot online. And I'm like, I'm teaching cooking. And a lot of my cooking class members were saying, we want to do this because life skills are important to us. I'm like, what if I can help them with other life skills? So every summer I bring together about 50 to 70 experts in all sorts of different categories. Again, finances, gardening, entrepreneurship, social skills, etiquette is really strong in this year, season 5, 2026. And they all teach their strength. They all teach it directly to kids and teens, which makes it super unique. Like how many programs online is like talking heads speaking to parents about parenting? Been there, done that. These are speaking to kids and teens. And they're very short. They're usually 5 to 15 minutes. Sometimes for teens, they're up to 30 because you got to dig in a little deeper sometimes. But we try not to go over 30 minutes. And the goal in our summertime screen time promise for parents is we are going to give you the most productive use of screens possible. And then every camp leader gives the kids a mission, which is an action step they can take in the world that day. It's supposed to be like 15 minutes or so they can feel that quick win, and that helps with the motivation. Like I did something, I learned something, I implemented it, and I saw results. And it's wild. I keep thinking we'll run out of skills. 450, Emily. We're not running out. Like we're already signing up camp leaders for season 6 in 2027, which is crazy. So if people are listening to this, depending on, when you're listening, if it's before June 8th, 2026, you're in time for the week that we make the brand new season completely free. So people will want to go to raisinghealthyfamilies.com/overwhelm for this podcast. If you're later than our 2026 camp week, we always have a handful of free videos there where you can kind of get a taste at different ages and some of those different categories and just show them to your kids, see how it goes.
Oh, that's so cool. And actually, I'm thinking, okay, well, my kids are going to be finishing up school, and then we have this void of we're going to be in a house that's already packed that is crazy with our upcoming move. And I'm like, huh, we might need some camp videos to get us through the summer. So, yeah, I'm going to check it out for myself, and it will be in the show notes if you can't write down the link right now. And
Mhm.
otherwise, how would you like people to connect with you? I know you have your podcast. Is that the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, if people are podcast listeners, look up the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast. But I would say any which way. I mean, if you want to dig into the life skills, just go to that link at raisinghealthyfamilies.com. And we're always giving free stuff away and really working hard. My whole team and I work really hard to support parents and saying, you can do this. Like you can launch a healthy, independent future adult, but it starts now, whether they're 2 or 12.
Yes, very convicting. Thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate you coming on, helping me as I kind of navigate life skills within my own family, but you've really blessed the audience as well. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome.
Hey Mama, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, could you please share this episode with another mom who is feeling overwhelmed? Also, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a 5-star written review wherever you listen to your podcast. Finally, if you would like more support, come on over to our free Facebook group, tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Can't wait to connect with you soon.